Joining us once again on the We Are West Ham podcast is my friend and now colleague Jack Rosser, sports journalist extraordinaire from The Sun, former West Ham correspondent for the Evening Standard. Had a bit of a bigger patch than that, but was a big West Ham guy. You can tell he's closet hammers only when they're not playing his beloved Saints, who they are this weekend on Sunday. Jack, thanks for coming back on the show again, mate. We always love chatting to you, of course. I went down to St Mary's the other weekend. I had pleasure seems a bit of a strong word, but I had the duty, I think it is, the paid duty, the paid obligation to go down there and work for the Everton game. Went 1-0 up undeservedly, collapsed within 5 minutes, saw an equally struggling Everton, or struggling at the time, come back and win 2-1. Hasenhüttl wasn't happy, understandably, after the game, had those panicked vibes that you see from managers who are under pressure in the press conferences. 9 games played, 2 wins, a draw and 6 defeats, 17th, hovering precariously above the relegation zone. Is the picture as gloomy and grim as I've just painted it?
Put it this way, at the moment, even I'd have to be paid to go. It's not good. It's really not good.
No,
I think there's just a sense of like, Hasenhüttl's done brilliant things. You know, we've had some great memories playing under him. We've beaten every single one of the top 6 under him, I think. And he's been there a long time and done some great work with what's, for the most part, been a fairly awful squad. But there's now a sense that it's just run its course, really. You don't want it to get toxic. You know, St Mary's is a very different place to social media. Social media has been toxic for years on Saints, but on any club. But there's broadly been support
on any issue ever.
Yeah, there's broadly been support at St Mary's, but I think that is now waning. I think we've had 3 wins from our last 21 games or something like that, 12 points from 21 games. And it's, you know, the fans have shown quite admirable patience, really, I think. And now there is a feeling that, you know, this is probably it. They are considering his position. I think it's more a case that they haven't got anyone lined up to replace him that is holding things back. So West Ham could well be his last game.
It's funny, Jack, because you mentioned the fans and the atmosphere there. There was muted boos at half-time at that Everton game, and Everton were far better. Like, if it had been 2-0 to Everton at half-time, that would have been a surprise to nobody. It was only through really quite a lack of end product and quality in the final third from them. But they had the vast majority of the ball, Saints struggling to get their foot on the ball, etc., etc. And the atmosphere there it was very, very muted. There's a couple of boos, general feeling of sort of disgruntlement.
Yeah.
But it was okay. And then after the game, even then, it felt like a club and a fan base who were almost just like a bit resigned to it, which
completely
is
indifferent,
worrying. Yeah, not that much anger or anything. It's just like, God, this is rubbish.
The football has been really
like this
stale
for a while.
The football's been really, really stale. The summer was quite exciting for a lot of fans. We spent a lot of money, which obviously under new ownership I'm absolutely not used to. I think it was about 60 million they spent on some really exciting players. They were a bit unlucky in that, I say unlucky, they didn't get the striker that Ralph wanted and desperately needed. You can see from, I didn't see the whole of the Everton game, but, you know, there were chances there that a proper striker puts away, but we've got Shea Adams and Adam Armstrong, and the only other option's Theo Walcott. So there's not, and Sekumara, who's a child. So there's not a lot that they can do, really, if they're creating the chances and they're not being put away. The same happened at Wolves. There was a load of chances. Shea Adams decided to handball one from a yard out instead of head it. And then Aston Villa, there was nothing that was really bad. But the performances, they don't seem to be doing the sort of, you know, proactive, pressing, attacking football that Ralph is famous for and is what has brought results in the past. They tried it against Man City for the first half, which is, you know, of any game this season to pick to do that, that's a good idea, isn't it? But, you know, we've done that before and caused teams like Man City problems. That's how we got 2 draws against them last year. We beat them behind closed doors. St Mary's doing that. but that's just stopped. We're not doing it against Everton, Aston Villa, Leeds. It's not happening. It's not clicking. And the football has just been safe and stale. You know, they've been unlucky in that Romeo Lavia got injured. He's fantastic, came in from City, thrown straight in and was superb. But, you know, if the form is nosediving quite so drastically because of the loss of an 18-year-old, then something's up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was just one of those games where before the game, Everton were in trouble as well. I think they were maybe a point above you at the time or on the same points ahead of the game. And it was one of those at home, you think, here we go. For one team here, this could be a little bit of a mini platform. And it was there for the taking. When Saints go one up, it was against a run of play, but you think, hold on to this for 15 minutes and Everton's bottle will go because it'll become more and more apparent that they're going to lose another game. Oh my God, we're on this. And they'd been unbeaten. And I think it was 6 unbeaten. They went with that win against you guys, but 4 of them were draws. And one of them was against West Ham, their wins, which was hardly like they weren't superb. So still big question marks there, but it does appear to have given them a bit of a boost off the back of that. And it was just a strange one because there was lots of talk after, Pickford was brilliant and all that sort of thing. I think there was maybe a 20-minute spell in the second half once Saints had gone behind, where they were sort of, people would like to dress it up as through the kitchen sink at Everton. They didn't. They had some more chances than the 0 they had in the first half. Yeah, and the saves Pickford made, barring one, which was all right, quite decent from Adam Armstrong, who probably should have done better once he'd come off the bench. Other than that, it was pretty routine saves, and although it looked busier in their half, it was just like they were winning, quite happy to sit back, soak it up, which invited a few more chances on, but none of them were really scary. You signed Joe. You mentioned the money you spent there. Where did that money go, Jack? Because I think Joe Aribo came in from Rangers, who scored your goal in the first half. But where else did that go in that team? The defender Bella Kotchap, is it? Is he?
Mostly it went to Man City.
Right.
Signed half their academy. But no, Bella Kotchap's a fantastic signing. So there are some encouraging things. I'm being very miserable because I quite like them to change the manager, but there are some encouraging things. Bella Kotchap looks genuinely fantastic. He's a superb defender. He was excellent against United at home, a game they lost 1-0, but probably should have got something out of. And then he was even better when we beat Chelsea under Tuchel, 2-1 at St Mary's. Just for his age, really intelligent, strong, quick, the sort of, proactive defender we've really needed. We've had years of Yannick Vestergaard and Jan Bednarak, who dictate the way you defend, which is very deep and quite poorly. And he's been really good. He's young, so you're going to have patches, a bit like Salisu, but they're 2 defenders there that are, strong, quick, know what they're doing and can have a fight with any centre forward, basically. And then we've also backed that up with Kaleta Carr, who is someone that West Ham for about 3 years. And he played again. I think he played against Everton, didn't he?
Yeah, that was his first game.
I didn't see how he played, but that when you're looking around for a centre half as a bit of cover and you bring him in on deadline day, that's really encouraging.
Yeah,
the kids we've got from City, Lavia, one of them, Bazunu, the goalkeeper, who through no fault of his own has had a fairly rough start because we can't keep hold of the ball, so he's just facing shot after shot after shot, and racking up some numbers. But has made some very good saves from Haaland at the weekend. And then we've got 2 down the left, a little left back, who I think played against Everton as well, Barrios.
Yes, yeah. He did look very good, actually.
Yeah, and then Sam Edozie, who is another winger from City, who just seems to love taking people on, which is quite nice to see when you've had years of Nathan Redmond.
It was just funny. You could just tell, and you're mentioning, you said there about feel like it's run its course. Just before we move on then to the actual game at the weekend, you sort of alluded to how you feel about the Hasenhüttl situation already. I was sort of talking afterwards and on the radio, and it was put to me that, well, yeah, but Hassan Hutel is clearly a good manager. He's done a good job at Southampton within the situation he was in. He came from a good job before. I think he was at Leipzig, was it?
Yeah.
You got him from before. He came from a good job there to take the Southampton one. He has been somewhat hampered with the squad, and there is a belief that, you know, at just a club the next tier up, that he could do a very decent job somewhere with a bit of a better squad. And who are Saints going to get? What's the feel? Does it feel just more of a time thing because it's been so long and it's going stale?
He's clearly a good manager, and it was a bit of a coup when they got him. I think I remember Martin Salmon saying that he rang 5 or 6 people to ask about Hassan Hutel when they were looking for someone to replace Pellegrino, I think it was. No, Mark Hughes. See, we've had so much crap over the years that they're all blurring.
You've had a few, haven't you?
Yeah. But everyone that he rang said you won't be able to get him, and then they did. So it was definitely a coup. He's been a very good manager. He clearly is a very competent, good manager. And like you say, I don't know, he went and then Leicester moved on from Rodgers. He might be able to go to Leicester and do a really good job somewhere like that with a new squad.
Out of place at Everton, I wouldn't have thought. You know,
no,
Lampard's hardly proven himself to be a tactical genius, is he?
Yeah, I'm sure he could do a really good job at clubs like that. And the fact is, he's had a long time with the same squad. He doesn't speak to them, really. He doesn't communicate with them. He's very my way or the highway, which is fine when you're top of the league in November or in the top 10. If you've got 3 wins from your last 21 and he's not listening to any of the comments his players have got to make, then there's an issue there and they stop playing for him. I think that's what it is. I listened to a bit of the radio on the way to a game at the weekend. It was the coverage of Man City Saints and the build up to that. It was almost like, Saints fans don't know what they've got here. You know, a bit like,
right,
patronising, you can't do better.
Yeah.
But I've got to the point where I'd rather go down trying than go down playing like this. So it's not let's keep him just so we can push on and, we think we can be this top 6 club. Every club thinks they can do what West Ham have done in the last couple of years, and we did it under Koeman before that. So, you can do it, but that's not the sort of aim. I just want to watch something exciting,
palatable.
Yeah, not even exciting, palatable. That you can see that there's an idea and that they're all on board with it. That's what fans want to see, and that's not what they've got anymore.
No, that is exactly what it was. It seemed a team who are just 11 players are out there, and they know that the basic premise of football is to pass the ball to each other and sort of get it up that end and try and get it in the goal. But any sort of form of how we're going to do that or how we should do it, there seemed like lots of running, but no real. It was a lot of working, semi-hard and not at all smart. But
Niles is there, and why?
Peculiar, very peculiar. When you just quickly before you say he doesn't talk to him, is that like one of those sort of managers who has, some of them have that approach whereby a lot of the coaches do all his coaching for him, or that sort of thing?
I think he takes a bit of a stand back, standoffy. I spoke to Jan Valery a couple of weeks ago, and he spoke to the Athletic as well, and he just sort of said he doesn't. Everyone knows he won't speak to you. The coach, you have a great relationship with the coach. You don't have much of a relationship with the manager. And it's why, he fell out with Redmond, he fell out with Cedric, he fell out with Bertrand. There's a reason why a lot of senior players have moved on. Not that all of them were good enough to play, but there is a reason why they've looked elsewhere.
Yeah, peculiar approach. Anyway, Jack, look, Southampton home to West Ham on Sunday. West Ham seem to have finally started, piecing some things together. A couple of bits of luck and some decisions gone our way, which weren't at the beginning of the season, not in the Forest and Chelsea game in particular. We were on the bit of a rough end. I never felt it was as bad as the table was suggesting anyway. Fortunately, we've now picked up a couple of wins that have certainly quietened the or sort of hushed the vocal negative section of West Ham fans on
never
Twitter.
Too far away, are they?
No, never, mate. Exactly, as you well know. West Ham sort of look. I mean, we're only 13th. Let's not get carried away. the exact same stats as Southampton, only they've turned one of Southampton's 6 defeats into a victory. So 5 defeats for West Ham, a draw and 3 wins. Going great guns in Europe, to be fair. And I was just sort of urging patience and waiting until some of these new signings clicked, which looks like what has happened. What's your take? You've seen probably more of West Ham this season than you have Saints. What have you made of it so far?
I think you're right in that they are starting to click. It is all, it was a big summer.
Yeah.
Moyes made it clear all last year that it was going to be a big summer, and it needed to be a big summer. They got what they needed and wanted. I think there was a couple of deals that obviously went for Brozier over Scamacca. That didn't happen, but Scamacca looks a fantastic signing. Looks like someone that can make a striker that can make something out of nothing. Whereas you've had Antonio before, who for all his
makes nothing out of something.
Makes nothing out of something. Yeah, like you only need to see his goal against Fulham where he's clean through and manages to piddle it at the keeper.
The most Mikel Antonio goal there ever was. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And he is brilliant, and he would be a nightmare to play against. But you just, for the level you're aiming to be at, you need someone that
scores.
When they're there, they can, 9 times out of 10 they'll score the easy goals, which you can never be sure of with Antonio. They've been unlucky at the back. Agard, obviously, getting injured in pre-season. Kehrer, who's been good but had that rocky start. Did he give away a penalty?
Yes, did go away a penalty and scored an own goal.
Yeah.
Jonesy, who is in love with him already just because he's banged the chest and given it the come on to the crowd a couple of times.
Easily swayed, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they've got a very good squad now. They've got a deeper squad. There's still the underlying issues of some of the fringe players not being quite up to the standard. Said Benrahma will always be a frustration for most of the coaching staff. And
yet you'll get screamed at by huge sections of the fan base if you suggest such a thing. I'm exactly the same. But there's such a weird divide. I have called him to play a couple of times this season. But there's a significant portion, it's almost 50-50 of people who think he should be starting each and every week, no doubt about it.
He can make things happen.
He's good at a Cruyff turn, but
but it's the end product.
That's
what a manager wants. That's what you look at. Jarrod Bowen, who a couple of years ago was one of the most frustrating players in the Premier League because he would get all the way there and couldn't finish. And now you look at the Jarrod Bowen you've got that has honed that and is reliable in front of goal. If Benrahma can do that, you've got one hell of a player and you've really got brilliant options. But he can't do that at the moment. But no, I think, squad-wise, they're in a good place. Cornet looks like a decent addition. I'm not sure how long he's out for, but he looks like a decent addition. Flynn Downs adds a bit of depth. It looks like from afar that Souček is starting to pick things up a bit again and maybe not have to play quite as much as he was before.
I think that's the key to it, yeah.
I mean, he was knackered and quite bad last season. So just
a great combo, is it?
Yeah, just having the options to rotate through there is a massive benefit to give him or Rice a rest. So no, I think they're in good shape. It was always going to take a little bit of time to click. I think with so many new faces, just look at Forest. That West Ham are that, but on a much smaller scale. But 6 or 7 signings is a big summer for any club to have to settle them all in. Saints have had something similar, and they're all kids there. But no, I think they're in a good place. Moyes was always going to get time. There was
too right.
There was the pressure that always comes with people weren't happy with the start to the season, and there is always a bit of pressure that comes with that. And he's not naive, and we'll know that. But he was always going to have a bit of credit in the bank to turn it around, and he's done that. So I think they're in a good place now.
Yeah, that feeling certainly shared by myself. And as you mentioned about Jonesy being easily swayed, of course, 2 weeks ago it was doom and gloom, big questions over David Moyes. Are we ever going to see West Ham would scale the heady heights that we have the last 2 seasons. This is all we're going to get in my lifetime. It was very, very doom and gloom from Jonesy, but no, a couple of wins, one against Anderlecht and a dodgy one against Fulham, and all of a sudden the sun is shining bright. There's rainbows in the sky. And, yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah. So, coming in, St Mary's, West Ham on Sunday. How's it going to play out, sort of style-wise? What do you expect from your team and ours?
I don't expect a lot from my team. That draws a line under that. It's a difficult one. We've started fast in some games and then fallen to pieces, or we've started slowly and then in quite a lot of games, especially earlier in the season, have turned it around. It depends if Lavia's back. I'm not quite sure where he's at, maybe a week or 2 away still. But they've been, we had a really poor record at your place for a while, but they've been for the last season or 2, they've been good competitive games. So I think it's 2 teams still not completely convinced of what they're doing, but albeit going slightly different directions. So I don't imagine it's going to be a free-flowing, superb advert for the Premier League, but I think it'll be a 2-1 either way. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Yeah, it's a strange one. Southampton are sort of one of those teams where, a bit like Fulham and Aston Villa, I never get at all nervous, but I don't think our record away at the Saints is quite as good as perhaps I've lulled myself into thinking it is.
A lot of draws, I think, at St Mary's.
Yeah. There's never like, Fulham and Villa Park, we normally have a 3-1 or a 4-0 thrown in there every couple of seasons, and you think that's okay, but I don't think that's really ever the case at Saints. But you also don't feel too worried about going there to get a result. Certainly not at the moment. You're going 2-1 either way. Jack, we really appreciate you coming on the show again. It's looking good. Are you going to go down then? Because, Leicester look like they're picking up. Wolves aren't terrible. They're making a change in the process of at the moment, manager-wise. Forest, I think, and, I don't know if professionally should say this, think and hope are doomed. Just only given the reaction of their fans after their scandalously lucky victory over West Ham earlier in the season, and their reaction, of course, to Jesse Lingard's signing. But then above you've got Villa, Palace, Leeds, West Ham, Everton, Brentford, which takes you up to 11th. And none of those teams really feel or look like they're in crisis. No. They're all good functioning Premier League clubs who could put a performance together.
It's going to be a very difficult season. I think the only target is to stay up, really. Although I wouldn't mind a year in the Championship just to win a couple of games. That would be all right, wouldn't it? I think there is more to be got out of this squad than clearly is currently happening. So I think if they don't make a change soon, I think it's inevitable they make a change before the World Cup, which I'd rather happen sooner rather than later. Then I think there is a chance we stay up, because I think Bournemouth won't be able to keep it up. Forest, I don't think will be able to put anything together, really. And then you just see how you go. If you can put it's going to be a strange season. Runs at different times will have a bigger impact than they might have done in a normal season. So you can almost have a refresh after the World Cup. If we can make a change now and pick up a few points between now and the World Cup, and then really go for it after then I think we'll be okay. But it is going to be a bit of a challenge.
Well, there we go. I mean, you are the solitary Southampton fan that I know. So in years gone by, I wouldn't have cared at all. I would have been totally apathetic were Southampton to go down. But you made me surprised to hear, but purely on the strength of my friendship with you, that I actually would like Southampton. yeah, exactly that, mate. It does feel like a change is needed, and perhaps a little bit of a few seasons of just selling your biggest and best players every single season without fail is perhaps catching up with you a bit. But look, that game at Sunday, 2:00 at St Mary's, West Ham at Southampton. Jack Rosser, sports journalism extraordinaire from the Sun newspaper there. Jack, appreciate you coming on the show again, mate. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time, and stay